Hey everybody, welcome to another 902 gaming video. I decided that I wanted to talk about The Division 2. It was just announced last week, and I was playing The Division over the weekend with my buddy Batmeister98. Actually, it's Batmeister98. He hates it when I call him Batmeister98. Anyways, and we were talking about some of the things that maybe they could have done versus actually, releasing The Division 2 and maybe expand more on Division 1. And, the conversation kind of went to, why did they choose to do the sequel versus expanding on the original game? And we sort of, I wouldn't say we disagreed, but we sort of had two different opinions on it. I just kind of wanted to talk about my opinion mostly, sort of cover a little bit of some of the stuff that we did agree on. He would have rather see them expand on it, and I can understand, aside from a financial point of view, why they would want to do a sequel versus expanding the original. And, definitely the financials play a part in it. When Division was released in May of 2016, according to Ubisoft, broke sales records for them. It was something like $330 million. I think it was in the first week or something like that. That definitely plays a part in it for sure. And I'm sure it's, it's a big part of it, because if they decided to release an expansion for Division 1, they'd probably only be able to charge maybe $40 or $50 Canadian for it. So they definitely can make more money. But I think some of the things that they wanted to work on is the Snowdrop engine. And they announced the Division 2. That was one of the things that they said that they're trying to work on. Some of the other things that I think they want to look at it, when they originally released the Division, there was a lot of things people really didn't like. And if you remember the season pass, a lot of people assumed that it would continue the story. And when they actually came out, none of the expansions actually continued the story. And I think that was a little bit of a surprise to people. Most people back then they were always looking towards story content, the next chapter sort of thing. And they kind of didn't get that. And Division kind of got some bad press from that kind of stuff. So they definitely want facelift for the game. And releasing a sequel is definitely the way to go, rather than try to release a large expansion for it. One of the things, that we were talking about was the fact that with the sequel, you're going to lose your progress with your current character, and that kind of sucks. And the reason I say that is there's really no precedence for actually being able to carry your character over from one game to the next. Like if you look at Destiny and Destiny 2, you weren't able to carry your character over. I did, however, like how Destiny 2 explained why you weren't as powerful anymore. It's hopefully something that the Division decides to do as well. But, if devs, if you're actually listening to this, in the very, very small chance that you are listening to this, please let us port our character over, okay? That's all I'll say about that. And at the very least, give us something that will indicate to other players that we were a part of Division 1, whether it's a really cool weapon skin or maybe some cool clothing or something like that. I understand that we won't be able to get any gear, but, give us something to commemorate the fact that we did play Division 1. I wanted to also talk about some of the things that they have to avoid, and that's my basis comes from Destiny 2. They need to avoid the pitfall that Destiny 2 made, and they can't, if their system's already in place in the Division 1, like the Phoenix credits or daily missions, definitely improve on these things, but do not remove them from the game and give them to us at a later date. Like, don't drip feed us content that we already have access to right now. PvP should be available from the get-go. Survival, if you want to do that, that should be available from the get-go. The big things that the sequel should do is give us new content to play with. Give us more story, for sure. There's no question in anybody's mind. Anybody that plays the Division and has been playing it for the 2 years that it's been out, I don't think anybody will say, please don't give us any more content or story content. Everyone wants to see where the story goes with this, the dollar flu or whatever. Because that was one of the things me and Batmeister actually agreed on. It's like story matters to this game. So devs, again, if you're listening to this, please give us more story. Don't say, oh, we cured the dollar flu and now something else is going on or whatever. Expand on what you already have. I think that's what the majority of the player base actually wants. There's a reason why a lot of people came back to the Division 1, after patch 1.7, I think it was, and then into 1.8. There was a lot of change, and then a lot of people really liked where it was at, where you didn't have to grind hours and hours and hours just to get some gear. Like, I remember originally I plowed through the Division's content was released pretty quickly, and the only way to get better gear back then was to go through the Dark Zone, and that's something that they cannot do. I'm pretty sure everybody will say that they, I'm sure there's people that love the Dark Zone for sure, but for people that like just PvE like myself, and I'm definitely more of a single player person than I am, playing this multiplayer PvP loot shooter kind of thing that they had trying to go on there. I think they realized, and that's why some of the things changed. And back then, you know, it was kind of annoying to be, I mean, I like the Dark Zone. I like the idea of the Dark Zone. I don't like spending my time, you know, working towards something and then having some griefer or something like that just sort of take me out, and then all the time I spent trying to get better gear or whatever, and it's just wiped out in 1 second. And then they basically take all of my gear that I worked hard for. And that was a big problem. And that's what originally, for me, it turned me off. And then, you know, once they announced all these new things that were coming out, I actually got, you know, it got me thinking. I was like, oh wow, there's actually better things to do now in the Division. I will say though, in all truthfulness, after I started playing it again and prior to the announcement of the Division 2, and I think in some ways they may have made a mistake, because I think people were just sort of getting back into the Division, and then to announce the Division 2, you kind of lost some probably could have milked a little bit more money out of the Division, because I might not be alone in this, but I was like pretty close to buying the season pass. You know, I was probably going to wait for it to go on sale or something on the you know, PSN or whatever, because I wanted to get all of that stuff. And I was like, oh, you know, this is a game that, you know, if they're going to continue to support, I want to support them. And I believe everybody out there that, you know, is listening to this, if there's a game that you love and you love playing it, I'm not saying to go in and buy loot boxes or any of that kind of stuff. But I was more of a mind of, if a game is great, you know, you should support them. It lets them kind of know that this game is valuable to them, and they'll want to make more of it, or, you know, produce more content for it or something like that. Now, provided that the new content isn't just microtransactions and they're not building a base game just to sell microtransactions. You know, I'm looking at you, Destiny 2. They cannot, that's one thing that they can't do. Have microtransactions, no problem. You know, if you want a cool weapon skin or whatever, you know, games like Fortnite and all that, they're kind of doing it as well. But don't make that your only source of content for the game. You know, Destiny 2 went down the route of the majority of the content was cosmetic. You know, there was no change in any stats or any of that kind of stuff. So don't do that kind of thing. Division, like, just make sure that we're not designing a game to sell loot boxes, you know, and I don't think they will. I think they know they have what they have right now works really, really well for them. And I'm sure there's people out there that do buy microtransactions for it. I was probably going to buy some until they announced the Division 2. I was talking to Batmeister about it, and I said, you know, I kind of want this specific set of clothing or whatever. Had they not announced the Division 2, I might have been inclined to purchase it. Now it's sort of, I'm going to kind of wait. Same with the season pass. Like, you know, I was thinking about buying it, and I'm like, well, I might still buy it. If, you know, I'm sure the Division 2 was probably a year or two off. You know, I think I'm actually going to go. I will, if it goes on sale on the PlayStation Store, I'm probably going to buy it because I do want to play Survival. I do want to play some of the other, you know, the Underground and all that kind of stuff. I think that stuff looks really interesting. And let's improve the movement in this game. We're having a bit of a laugh about how if you wanted to, if you were running forward and you wanted to sort of turn around, you kind of had to do it in this weird arc, and you kind of come around almost as if you were like skating on ice, and you slowly had to turn and come back. You know, you couldn't stop basically on a dime and turn back. So, you know, that's something that they can improve for sure. And the combat, I think, is also pretty good. There's not much that they need to improve there. Some of the talents probably need to be reworked. Give us some more options there. Give us some more options in our abilities. I also think the main talent that you have, I think, you know, out of the three, I think only one was ever used the most. I think one was barely used at all. I'm sure there are more purists out there that can say, yeah, you know, there's certain situations where you do want this or whatever. Any of the time I've ever played it, I've only ever used, you know, one of the abilities. So there's definitely improvements to be made in that, which I have, you know, again, I have no doubt that that's what they're going to do. We have the world tiers now. We also have daily mission levels. Basically, you know, you start off in normal, you can go all the way up to legendary. All of this stuff should be available right off the bat. There's going to be players that are going to plow through your content no matter what you do. You can have, you know, you can have 50 world tiers, you can have 50, you know, tiers for your daily missions. People are going to fly through that stuff. You can't avoid that. So don't, again, I've said this already in this video, don't drip feed us content. That's one of the biggest pitfalls that they could make. If it comes out when the Division 2 is actually announced, you know, I think it's going to be announced more at E3, and they might give us some more idea of what's going to happen. If they say, you know, we're just going to start off with the base game plus the Dark Zone and basically do what we did originally, you're going to turn, you know, you're going to definitely turn me off. I don't want a regression into what we've already had. You guys worked on this stuff. You made it great. Don't take it away. Do not take things away from the players that have been playing the game for a long time. I haven't been playing it for 2 years straight. I played it for a good 6 months when it came out, and then I sort of stopped. I played it a little bit again, and then, December of last year, I started getting back into it. One of the reasons why I got back into it was the developers over there were actually paying attention to the stuff that their fan base wanted. And that's something, I'm trying not to crap on Destiny 2 too much in this video, because I want to talk about, my love for the Division, and the love sort of rekindled from the very beginning. Loved the Division, and then found out they made some improvements to the game. I was like, man, I really want to check this out again. And that's when I came back and I started playing again, and I heard that the developers were actually paying attention to some of the things that the players wanted. I watched a live stream not that long ago, and they were saying how the players wanted increased drop rate in the classified set gear. If you don't really play the Division, the classified set gear is pretty much your top tier, is your end game gear sets. And players were complaining, it's taken way too long to get this stuff. We just want to enjoy the content, and some of the content you can't do without getting this classified gear. And they listened. The last stream that I watched, the dev said, here's a guy that's working on making these improvements. Here's what the improvements are going to be. And, we don't have an exact date, but, it's going to come sometime, probably in the next patch 1.9 or something like that. So those are things that are great. That's something that day and age, we have instant communication. The fact that they've been doing live streams since the very, very beginning, now it's changed, and I don't know how many people actually remembered the original live streams that they used to have, but they've definitely changed. They've just sort of moved to this sort of model where it's just communication. Hey guys, 10 minutes, it's not that much time out of your day. Here's what's going on, what's the state of the game, and this is what we're working on. Thing going on, they still come on and say, hey, there's not really anything that's been really new. This is still what we're working on. But that's great. You have that face-to-face communication with the developers of this game that that people really, really love. And that's something that they need to continue going forward. Don't get rid of, again, I've said it already, don't get rid of stuff that you already have in game. Just don't do it. If you don't do that, I promise you this game will be massively, massively, massively successful, because I think there's an audience out there for this game. Know exactly what the numbers are, but the game is definitely picked up from where it was before, a year ago or so. You have way more people coming back to this game. So anyways, in closing, guys, I just wanted to say that I am really excited for the Division 2. Just wanted to talk about some of the things that I'm worried about. Hopefully they can avoid those pitfalls. Leave a comment below if there's anything that you think I missed or something that I didn't talk about. Like the video if you liked it. Thumb it down if you didn't like it. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. And I'm going to put a link in the description below to my buddy Batmeister98. His channel, it's QPR Squad. He does some really good Battlefield 1 content. That's his baby. He loves playing that game. So be sure to check him out. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time on 902 Gaming.